Welcome. This podcast is an exploration into being human and what's possible when there's less attention on the noise in our heads. Warning. While listening to this broadcast, you may experience moments of deep peace, sighs of relief, personal insights, or long stretches of dead air. Do not be afraid. This is normal. Under the Noise with Wyn Morgan and Kate Roberts.
Welcome to Under the Noise. I'm Kate Roberts, and I'm here with my co-host, Wyn Morgan. Hi, Wyn.
Hello, Kate. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. And today, as our guest, we have Ellen. Hi, Ellen.
Hi. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you for joining us. So glad you're here. So, before we started recording today, we were talking about what brought you on the show. And I remember you and I had a conversation that was generally about some questions with the 3PGC. And then it just kind of went from there in a very just beautiful and lovely way. And I remember both of us crying at one point. And then I was just, after that, I reached out to Wyn and I was like, Wyn, I'd love to have Ellen on. And that's really how you came to be on the show. Mm-hmm. So I'm so excited to not only have had that conversation with you and gotten to know you a little bit, but I'm excited to see where the conversation goes today.
Yeah, thank you. Well, it's interesting that just the title Under the Noise has been repeating in my awareness. And I had it as an idea up until just about a week ago. And then it landed in a different place. It landed under the noise. And it reminded me that when I first was introduced to the principles understanding, I heard, share what you know, share what you know, share what you know. Probably 1,000 times, no joking, right? Because everyone says that multiple times that we learn from. And of course, at the time, I knew that there was intellectual knowing and deeper knowing, but I was just on the search for the intellectual knowing because that's how you learn something. And then I was blessed a few years ago to have a very significant shift in that. And I wish that we would say, like, what do you feel instead of what do you know? Because when I think about what do I know, it just used to keep me in my head. What do you guys hear in that?
Well, for me, it's strange because it would depend upon the tone of the word no.
Mm-hmm.
So when you and I first met, which is 6.5 years ago now, you looked through messages to figure out when that was. And George and Linda Pransky would be talking about exactly what you've just shared, speak to what you know and share that. And then it was speak to what you know, not what you know, right? There was a deeper feeling in the word no, deep, which is pointing exactly to what you're saying here, the deeper knowing. And knowing that it's absolutely not from the intellect, a deeper knowing that is truth beyond ideas and before form. And as you said, under the noise of that.
And even when I heard, what do you know? My personal mind still was focused on what I knew intellectually.
Oh.
So I know that there's a difference when people say that, but but I still had, my free will still took it where it took it, you know.
Isn't that funny? Because to me, I have the opposite. Because when someone says, well, what do you feel? Well, I can feel an itch. I can feel hungry, thirsty, right? So there's, to me anyway, there's this sort of the natural ebb and flow of an emotion that I can instantly go to when someone says, how do you feel? But if I get wise to the fact that they mean a deeper feeling, then I'm with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now the what do you know, always lands differently.
Yeah.
What about for you, Kate?
It's still very normal for me to refer up here for that, for the answers, for direction. That's still very normal for me. But in the last maybe I don't know, year or so, not knowing has held a space of almost comfort, which I'm pretty sure I've spent most of my life running from that feeling of not knowing. So that in itself, that might be more comfortable to me. Oh man. That's surprising and lovely. I was actually writing this morning. Like I woke up and my mind took off and I was basically like scaring the crap out of myself. And I think I've spent some time motivating myself with fear in my life.
You too?
Like somehow it's on me to keep myself in line, right? And so I was writing about like if I was able to just not run from that fear, but stick with it just enough. Like be with it just enough that there's something on the other side of it that I'm starting to get a sense of. Like beyond the feeling that I'm running from and avoiding and numbing out or distracting, right? So if I could be with it, that there's something waiting for me on the other side.
Mm-hmm. And then, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. The thing that showed up that came to my mind, but I don't feel like I thought it, but it sounded a lot like, okay, now this is where we start in not knowing anything. Like that's the starting place where life begins to meet us. And that's the way it felt. What were you going to say, Ellen?
I was going to say that's under the noise. That's that's under the noise. And I've been in awe of what is available under the noise. I love the awareness that I'm having about the level of the noise and whether it's in the foreground or in the background. And my question of also what do you know? Like, I'm really in the exploration of, do I only know? Is what I only know what I know now in this moment? Like, that's what brings it from my head down. That's what brings it under the noise, is I can only know in this moment.
I think that's profound. Because anything that we don't know in this moment, that we think we know, must be from the head, must be the noise.
The noise, an old belief.
This
Yeah.
BS, for want of a better phrase. Stuff that, we're retreading the tires of a good idea that we heard once or we think was good and true once. And I think just, for me anyway, and listening to the two of you, flushing the system back to I don't know and start fresh every moment, that is what I was reflecting on. That right now it enables me to get a fresh look from a deeper place of what I know, not from what I might have known in the past or something I thought I knew, but it turns out I don't really know it. I just pretended.
Or what I want to know about the future.
Yeah.
I've been playing there too. And it's wild to see my anxiety just raise as soon as I go into the future. And I'm so grateful for that immediate feedback and that distinct difference between what I know now, between the present moment and the future negative fantasy. Sometimes it's positive fantasy, but mostly it's negative fantasy. I'm so grateful for the significant distinction between those two feelings.
Because it's funny how much we think we know about the future. And it is unknowable. Completely unknowable. And it's just something I've been playing with in my mind in the last few weeks, seeing how much of my mind, like you're saying, how much of my mind is tricked by, even if it's the next hour or the next week, I go there. And it's really compelling that it looks true. It looks like I can know. And it would be impossible that I would know. Quite humbling.
What was the last thing you just said?
Quite humbling.
Oh yeah,
which is actually the feeling of relief as well as humility.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. The relief with feeling humble, humility. Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing that this exploration has opened up for me is to see that I can't even anticipate how I might feel. It's really opened me up to seeing, wow, I didn't know that experience was possible. So I'm sitting in a restaurant 4 months ago, and someone walks in to meet me for lunch, and she's like, "Ellen, you look so amazing. I can't believe how you look." And she was reflecting exactly how I was feeling in that now moment. And I was sitting one day in between a biopsy and a diagnosis, and I didn't know that feeling amazing was possible. I didn't know that worry didn't have to exist. I didn't know that even wonder had to exist. I didn't know that just amazing could exist. It brought me to tears. It brought me to tears of, like, how can that be? I didn't know that was possible. And the next day, when the biopsy results came back positive for cancer, I didn't know that I could still feel amazing. Like, I didn't know that a cancer diagnosis didn't have to rock my world. It's still extraordinary as I share it with you right now. Like, I didn't know the peace of mind. Like, again, back to the idea, like I had the idea that peace of mind was independent of any person, circumstance, situation, right? I've said that to so many clients, but there always feels like exceptions. And that would have been an exception for me, for sure, before this understanding, and probably for many years into exploring this understanding. But to have the direct experience that didn't rock my world it continues to be an extraordinary feeling. And I'm just like, my tears right now, I'm just like moved that's still possible. It's another thing I didn't know until the moment. And I also know that every moment something else might happen. But right now I'm still in awe, or right now I'm in awe of this moment. Of knowing my essence to the depth and level that I know now has nothing to do with any diagnosis or label. all those things that were ideas are so beautifully landing inside of me as knowings. And I want to explore some more with both of you about like this in the moment, right? Because as I said that, it was like, oh yeah, that's now. And in the next moment, it might be something different. That doesn't mean that we didn't know something. Like in the past, in the intellectual knowing, if it would have been different.
You know, for me, anytime that I'm able to be in a space where I'm honestly even sticking my toe in the water of now, not even fully, you know, like some people have these experiences of now that just change them forever. But anytime I'm even sticking my toe in the water of now, I know that I'm dropping out of the noise.
Mm-hmm.
And that feels, to your point, very different. Even if it's just a bit, then I'm getting closer to the reality. And, you know, I've heard a lot in spiritual circles, especially I used to listen to a lot of Abraham Hicks and law of attraction stuff. That was really meaningful to me at the time. But there's this pushing up against what is. And what is in their circles, right? What is you have to look beyond what is, right? And not see what is, because sometimes what is isn't all that great. And then I started reading Byron Katie, and it's very different because the reality of what is, when all of our thinking falls away, we get to touch at least a little bit who we really are. And in the Three Principles community, I've heard it and it speaks to me. I've heard that when we're in our thinking, in our personal minds, right? And it's spinning out, it's our invitation to notice only two things. Is that I'm caught up in my thinking and I forgot who I was.
Mm.
And that's it. And it's so simple.
Mm.
And I keep coming back to that. Oh, I forgot. It's not just that I'm caught up, it's that I forgot who I am.
Mm-hmm. Mm. I love that extra piece.
It's almost like I stayed in the first part of really, okay, I'm caught up, right? But to join those two together and always come back. Oh, I forgot who I am. And that was something actually that just touched me this morning when I was scaring myself. I remembered I remembered that. And I remembered this podcast that I had just listened to talking about how powerful we are. I was like, whoa, I'm so powerful because I'm really am scared. Like I'm scaring myself and I can feel it and it's running the show. I was like, wow, I'm so powerful. That's who I am. And scare the crap out of myself, or I can remember how powerful I am. And something about that just dropped off.
I love how they go together. The forgetting who we are and the caught up.
Yeah.
It's like there's just both the personal mind doing its thing. That's all. And that's part of how powerful we are too. That we can see it when we see it.
It almost gives me a sense of not needing to know anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm caught up and I forgot. And there's something so simple and yet so complete with those two things.
And yet we can also complicate it by, I remember many times when I would try and do something with that. I'm caught up and I shouldn't be, or I know that I'm caught up. And if I have this understanding, that means I should do something to get out of it or whatever, or that I shouldn't have some variation of that. Yeah, and this last week when I was caught up in my future what ifs, I was like kind of sitting back and putting my feet up and knowing they just had their own life and they were just going to ride their course. And as I'm sharing this, I'm aware like I wasn't trying to do anything with them. What a relief.
Ellen, I'd like to go back to something that you said a few minutes ago. The question having in your way of describing this, how would you describe what fuels that personal mind?
Oh, it's so familiar. My personal mind feels narrow, right or wrong. Urgent, certain in a different way, though, right?
Yeah.
That's an interesting thing. It's not certain in the certainty that of what I really know. Let me see what else is there. Separate, like all the things that the personal mind does. It's just, I remember the moment that I instead of trying to fix or heal or correct the personal mind, that I saw it as perfect for me, knowing how to maintain the illusion of safety and security and control, and how just seeing it as so clever of how it can maintain illusion. So it has a different feeling than it used to have. And I love that it's part of the whole of who I am, because that really keeps me from wanting to do anything with it.
Wow. Wow. Hey, do you want to know something funny? Well, funny to me anyway, so it's all in the eye of the beholder, right? It's just what I think is funny. That wasn't the question I asked, but that was an answer to a question I wish I had asked. Looking back, that would have been a better question. So I'm glad you got through the answer to the question that I thought of, because I think that opens up a whole other remit. It's great to know the feeling of the personal mind, the feeling of what it's like to be caught up, because to me, it's all I ever need to know. It's the shortcut. The feeling is the gift of knowing. Wait a minute. Those two questions that Kate said, I'm off right now. I'm in that very human, smaller mind, brain. That's so cool.
Maybe Divine Mind had me hear the question that you wish you would have asked.
Yeah, or Divine Mind, got the words tangled up in what was trying to come out of my mouth. And what you heard was the question I wish I'd have asked.
It actually makes me think of, I was having a conversation with my sister, and she was telling me about something that she had heard. And she tells me this, and I'm like, I could feel like my mind just blew with the perfection of how things are. So she's telling me about something that she'd heard about the power of our personal thought, right? This isn't the exact words that she used, but it's meant to be so powerful and camouflage the truth. Because if we really knew who we are, like really knew, we'd find ways to leave and go back basically to pure positive energy or wherever we came from. Because if we knew how great that was, right? She's like, we would be like the animals. They pop in and out, right? So they're constantly, and it made me think of like squirrels that basically just run out. You're like the only car and they just have to run out in front of it, right? Because they don't care. They're good with it. They're good with going. So if we knew it, we would be like, oh, never mind. I don't need this, right? This hurts. I'd rather be there. Like, I'd rather be who right? And so we would constantly be finding ways to get out of this life experience because we know that it's so much better. We would know. And so we stay. We stay and we continue to look in this direction of who we are, never really being able to grasp that intentionally, like almost like this is the perfection of the system. And when I'm suffering, I freaking hate it because I believe it and I'm feeling it and I'm going through, right?
But what if you could suffer and
like
not hate
Sid
it?
said, it's like a dream, right? So Sid Banks would say life is a dream. And we believe it. And it feels real. What are you saying, Ellen? Sorry.
No, that's okay. Thank you for slowing me down.
No.
And, you know, what if there's an opportunity to suffer less? Right? That's, to me, that's what this is about. It's not about not suffering. It's just about like suffering less intense, less duration, less frequent.
Well, and it seems like you got to see that and experience that in your body, in your mind, and how it feels like this week or on that day that you were referring to. Like, I didn't know that feeling good was possible on a day like today.
Especially without willful thinking or positive thinking or manifesting or practicing. Like, that's even more extraordinary for me, that it occurred naturally and effortlessly, just from understanding, just from knowing that there's so much under the noise, from knowing that the only thing under the noise is the present and the now.
Wow.
You know, you're sharing your story though, and people getting to hear that is such a beautiful invitation to hope of what's possible. And we may try to put words to something that's that you can't put words to, but you know, you're a living invitation to that hope, Ellen.
And to possibility for anyone in any situation.
Yeah.
And it's really,
See that whatever we think the exceptions are, there's more to see. To your example,
always more.
even on a day like this, even when I'm in between here and here, and this wouldn't be how I should, in inverted commas, feel, but here I am. Points again and again and again to feeling isn't from the outside. And that hope that Kate just mentioned too, I find that just an astonishing thing to keep remembering.
Thank
Seeing deeper.
Write that down. Even on a day like today. Love that.
I think you said it, Kate. I think, though, it
Oh, no.
was repeated from Ellen earlier on, so I guess the impersonal mind probably came up with that one, as opposed to
It was a team effort.
anyone in particular. Yeah,
Mm,
that's lovely.
how beautiful.
Thank you so much for the invitation to be here. And I was even in the awe that was one of the stories that wanted to be shared today.
Thank you for that.
Because today is the first time that I'm sharing it to, let's just say, a potentially wider audience than a person at a time. And not every person that I know.
Thank you. And if someone wanted to get in touch with you to talk with you, how would they do that, Ellen?
Ellen at healinghousecalls.com. And I just learned about an hour ago that someone had tried to get hold of me through my website, and I didn't get the message. So probably direct email until my website gets repaired, which hopefully will be by the end of the day today. But
oh, cool.
Whenever that happens.
You don't have to rewind this. Okay, if you're listening, trying to catch that email address, because it will be wherever you found this. Kate will very wonderfully, as she always does, do the technical stuff for these podcasts, and we'll have your email address out there, Ellen, for anyone to pick up. And here on YouTube, if you're watching us on YouTube, or where you're hearing us on whatever platform you're using. Ellen, this has been a joy. Thank you so much.
We appreciate you. Thanks.
Thank you.
You've been listening to this week's episode of Under the Noise with our special guest, Ellen Friedman, and my ever wonderful co-host, Kate Roberts, and myself, Wyn Morgan. And if you've got any comments, questions, or suggestions for future episodes that you'd like us to cover, then please do get in touch. We'd always love hearing from you. Wish you a great week and speak to you soon. Goodbye.
Thanks for joining us. We'd love for you to subscribe, rate, and review. If you have a topic or question that you'd like us to chat about, email Wyn or Kate at wyn@winning.co.uk and Kate at katerobertscoaching.com. Until then, enjoy what's possible under the noise.